It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of Escape from Margaritaville, Mean Girls, Carousel, and The Seafarer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. And hello again, Leslie.
Hi, Charlie.
How you doing?
Oh, it's getting warmer. It's getting springier. I'm feeling like spring. Thank you.
All right. Ready to get through all these shows?
Gonna try.
All right.
Give it my best.
We're going to start here. My friends, are you tired of going to a Broadway musical only to find that it requires thinking? Have you had enough of oh-so-clever lyrics with witty rhymes? Are you sick of musicals dealing with high school angst or so-called classic revivals where the leading man kills himself or worse, is merely accustomed to the leading woman's face? Is it your belief that a Broadway musical requires not only a good tap dance number, but an exploding volcano? Well, my friends, have I got a show for you. Oh, what? You mean you don't like musicals based on Nickelodeon sponges? Well, fear not, my friends. We can still help you. Yes, we are here to talk about Escape from Margaritaville. Yes, this is the latest jukebox musical with music, the music of Jimmy Buffett.
Which point I'm supposed to say you mean Buffett?
Well, and I am supposed to answer, Leslie, what did I say about thinking? Okay, basic plot of this show. Handsome guy who's a slacker, played by Paul Alexander Nolan. Musician working on an island. Really cute, ambitious, and smart girl who's even cuter, played by Allison Luff. Well, guess what? They meet. And of course, each of them has a less cute friend there for comic relief. In this case, Lisa Howard and Eric Peterson.
Now, Lisa Howard was in that wonderful play about the sister at the wedding. Do you remember that? Was a large sister at the wedding and a very tiny, and the mother, you don't remember. Okay.
I think that was about 2 seasons ago.
It was about 2 seasons ago,
Right.
and she was the breakout star.
Wasn't that the one where he couldn't marry her because he was gay?
Yes,
It was like
that
the
was what the
third
bottom
musical
line
that
was.
season that used that plot device.
But she was the breakout star of that, so she's wonderful. And her boyfriend in this, who's the bartender, who's the plump, pudgy, that guy.
Again, the funnier but not as handsome sidekick friend.
Yes, is Eric Peterson, right?
Yes. And of course, this is based on primarily Escape from Margaritaville, Wasting Away Again in Margaritaville has the Buffett's songs, and if you're I think it's a parrot.
Parrot head, they call it.
You're gonna like this. Otherwise, it's again, what can you say about a musical that is actually less sophisticated than SpongeBob SquarePants?
Well, it's funny, but it's written by Greg Garcia and Mike O'Malley, and they did My Name is Earl and Raising Hope.
Yes.
And I like those 2 shows. I found them subversively funny.
Yes.
They were on this level they were dumb, but on this level they were smart kind of shows.
Yes.
There's no this level smart on Margarita.
No. This is the basic. Let's have some fun here. And there are dancing, pretty girls who actually do Rockette-like kicks.
Yes. There's tap dancing
and wear cute outfits.
Yes.
There is tap dancing.
And the costume de rigueur, as it were, is some kind of a Hawaiian shirt.
Yep.
And even though it's not Hawaii, and Bermuda shorts, I guess is the phrase for it. Although some of the girls come in with some really short shorts, but that's okay because they can wear them.
Well, this is now the flip side for it. Again, I'm not a big fan of Jimmy's music. I like the title song a lot, but the rest of the score.
You don't like Cheeseburger in Paradise? I'm joking. They all sound the same. They all have the same beat. They're all the same song.
Yes, it's a jukebox musical, and they don't do much to distinguish the songs. But it's a fun evening.
It's mindless. It's harmless. It's mindless and harmless. What more can you ask?
That's pretty much is. And this is go in knowing what you're going to get out of this.
Right.
And you'll probably have a good time.
Right, and you can also you drink at your seats, which a lot of people were doing.
They do serve margaritas there.
Yes.
I think I would give this about 3 playbills. Slip me a couple of margaritas and maybe I'd go to 3.5.
I'd love to see you with a couple of margaritas. I would say 3.5 is fair. If I have 2 seconds, do we have 2 seconds?
Do.
A fellow critic, right? He's a chief critic for the New York Times, but a fellow critic. We're allowed to say that.
Yes, we are.
Got into such trouble for giving this a bad review, and then the parrot heads came at him on Twitter. Luckily, they're not in the street, but on Twitter, and he wrote an op-ed piece on when you want to write a bad review. You don't want to write a bad review, but when you have to, when you're forced to by dint of not a good show.
Just by the fact that you didn't like the show.
Yes, exactly. And it was a very interesting commentary on what we do.
Yes.
We didn't mind this show. It's not as if we, it didn't make us hate it.
No.
Basically.
No, we again, we obviously, and it's certainly not the first time that I disagreed with the New York Times.
Oh, well,
won't be the
absolutely.
last.
But anyway.
Okay. Now, to my surprise, this next show wasn't based on Leslie's life. This is Mean Girls.
I was not expecting that. That he just threw that at me. I don't know where that came from. Yes, this is Mean Girls. Truth in that, I went to a girls' high school. I blossomed in high school. I was not with the popular girls. I found the theater group. I found the magazine to write for. I had a great time in high school. I didn't live this experience. So this is not my experience. But what is my experience is John Hughes movies, and everything in this movie comes out of the John Hughes version of a movie. It's a young girl who's raised in
Africa.
Kenya. I just want to get the right place. In Kenya.
Which is in Africa.
Yes, which is in Africa. And her parents are scientists, and they work with animals, and her best friends have been animals, and she understands groups in terms of alpha and beta animal behavior. So she tries to, and it works for a little while for her, I think, to put this, superimpose that over what happens when she gets it. But she's never been to public school. She was homeschooled. She has no idea of what any of this stuff is.
And if you're at all interested in this musical, you probably know that it's based on the movie of the same name written by Tina Fey.
Yes, but however, the movie was 95 minutes long because you and I just both saw it. It was on TV, and we decided
we may have seen an edited version.
No, it was 95 minutes. Wait a minute. Where are they going with that?
Okay. Well, this is also written by Tina Fey.
But this has been swollen to 2 hours and something.
With no commercials.
Because of the songs that everybody has to sing. And I don't mind them. I mean, I don't remember most of them, but the point is, it was a long musical for what it was.
Very highly entertaining one.
Yeah, and very, very well acted.
I actually liked it better than the movie, despite for Lindsay Lohan.
Except for Lindsay Lohan, I have to say that because the star of the movie is the character of Katie,
right?
And unfortunately, the star of the play, in terms of the dynamic, is Regina, the head of the Mean Girls.
Yes, the head of the Plastics.
The head of the Plastics. There is nobody better on that stage than this young lady, Taylor Louderman. I know you don't agree with me.
Yeah, I don't.
But she comes on, and I couldn't get my eyes off whatever she was doing. And the sound of her voice could like a diamond, it could cut glass. It was so pure and so angular.
The person, to me, the breakout here for me, was Katie Rockwell as the dumb mean girl.
Okay.
I mean, watching her in the movie, all right, she's a character who blends in. Here, she just stands out so comedically. She's just so funny. And yes, she's dumb. She's flunking most of her subjects, but she is so perceptive. I wouldn't be surprised if she grows up to be Billy Dawn. And just to me, that was the breakout performance. And not that, and I liked Erica Hannigan's.
Let me just tell a little more about what happens.
Okay.
Because we kind of didn't do that. But so Katie gets involved with the Plastics, and there's one more plastic who is Gretchen, and she's played by Ashley Park. And here she's an Asian girl, and she was not in the other show. And
although ironically, she ends up sitting with the Asian girls at the end of the movie.
Yes, but only because she's lost her place, and she speaks to them in whatever language they speak, which is really interesting in the movie, but that's another story entirely. Staying with the story here, several things happen, the motivational things that push the story forward. For anybody who hasn't seen the movie, you need to know this.
Basically, Katie, the girl from Africa, is invited into the mean girl clique.
Because
because they find her interesting.
They find it interesting that she doesn't know anything, and they figure they can mold her.
Right.
That's what it is. And she's pretty. So.
And to an extent, they do mold her, but she's also influenced by two couples. One that is Gray Henson, who as the too gay to function, and I'm quoting boy who, and he's fabulous in the role, and of course
name is Damien.
Damien, and how can a character like that not thrive in a Broadway musical?
And his cohort,
Yes.
but not his girlfriend, but his cohort, it has the strangest name. Barrett Wilbert Weed is her name, and she's charming. She plays Janice,
Yes.
who may or may not, who's sort of a semi-goth, and may or may not be a lesbian. You find out at the end which way she goes,
Right.
or both for that matter. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But in any case, those are her real friends. So her real friends get left behind as she gets more and more into the plastics,
Right.
and she becomes a plastic.
Well, she gets to the top of the pyramid, and they're left, at least temporarily, and they're left behind. I think we also have to mention, let me see, Kerry Butler, who plays both the
absolutely.
Tina Fey role and the Amy Poehler role, among others. She's wonderful in the show.
Meaning the teacher and one of the mothers.
math
She
teacher,
plays
yes.
both of the mothers, but one of the mothers, the mother of Regina, is I don't even know. She's the housewife of wherever they live. She's one of those characters with the push-up bra and the face is all plasticized and the hair is all blondined and so she's hysterically funny.
And so Kerry Butler has to follow both of those.
Yeah.
I mean, and she does very
well.
nicely.
She does a nice job with that.
I frankly like this better than I like the movie. I think the way it was staged by Casey Nicola, staged and directed. Oh. I'm sorry, is that the Parrot Heads inviting us to dinner?
I think so. We've just been invited out. I'm terribly sorry.
Or maybe it's the Mean Girls who want us to come and sit at their table.
Yes.
And the way it's fluid, it's updated, it acknowledges, social media, which really didn't exist to the extent that it does today.
Okay, but here's a hypothesis
uses
for
it.
you. Yes, it uses social media, but it still uses a plot twist, which is a book that the Mean Girls write based on the end of year
on their
yearbook.
nasty observations.
Their nasty observations on the yearbook. They cut pictures out and they say things. Well, they wouldn't do it in a book. They would do it online. They would have a file. They would put it on a hard drive.
No, they wouldn't.
No, they put it on a hard drive.
They might.
And so the book idea kind of is stretching. Kids don't do things in books anymore.
I think that when they do when they want to have everyone look at it and they don't want to have to bother to get the computer. Plus, it would not be leaked that way, and they don't want it to be leaked, at least until they do.
If only one person held onto the hard drive, it never would have gotten leaked in the first place.
Right. Now the score. This is by Jeff Richman and Neil Benjamin.
Well, Jeff Richman is Mr. Tina Fey, or vice versa. I don't know
I'm
how
sure
you
he loves
put
hearing that.
Oh well, Sorry, Jeff. It was just a joke.
All right. But I asked you about the score, and you said what score?
Yeah. Well,
and
it wasn't memorable. As I said, I loved hearing Regina's sound, and you said we should listen to the album, and I think that makes sense.
I think so.
You got to. If it doesn't grab you at the show, then it's not. It's not doing its job.
Functioned.
It functioned.
It moved the show along, but it was not memorable.
Right.
And still, I do want to hear it again.
Hey, I don't remember anything from SpongeBob either.
There you go. Well. We'll talk about SpongeBob. I would give this. I think I'd go to 4.
I could see why, and I'll tell you one of the reasons is because Casey Nicola did not just do the direction, but he also did the choreography. And this play moves, even if it is 2.5 hours or whatever.
Beautifully.
It moves, and he's got kids using trays as platters and things.
And it puts
and
over the
symbols
story, and it puts over the characters. Even
very, very well.
if she's not Lindsay Lohan, she still gives a good. These are still good performances.
No question.
And I found this show very entertaining, as did my 20-something daughter.
Yes.
And my teenage niece, who both knew the movie.
I was very happy that they were.
And they said this was an improvement. They agreed this was an improvement, more sophisticated, more I think more.
I think your daughter said it wasn't as mean as the movie.
Right.
I didn't find the movie particularly mean.
I suspect we may have seen an edited for television version.
Okay, maybe.
You're right.
All
What we saw was pretty similar to what we saw on stage.
I thought it went moment to moment.
I suspect we need to rent the DVD.
Oh, no, I'm not going to bother. Trust me, I've done it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I will say,
You put your
Lindsay
time in.
Lohan, get yourself together and come back, will you? There's a place for you somewhere here.
Yes.
So you just took that away.
Well, because we're going to talk about Carousel now.
But all my notes for Carousel are on there too now.
Were they?
Yeah, yours are not here?
Well, no, they're on.
Okay. Well,
okay.
We may not have anything to say about Carousel, folks.
Well, I'm going to say a little about Carousel.
Okay.
Carousel was one of, I think, was Richard Rodgers' favorite musical of the ones he
I tried to
wrote.
find that out. I put in Richard Rodgers' favorite. I could not find any
Well, I do recall reading
Okay,
it, and
all
of course he wrote the music to Rodgers and Hammerstein. Oscar Hammerstein did the book and lyrics. This
Yes.
was the show that they wrote right after
Oklahoma, their second show
and of
together.
course, it for many years was best known for giving Jerry Lewis his telethon theme song, which he sang I think for like 50 telethons. But it has always been problematic because imagine going back to Oklahoma if Laurie had decided to marry Judd instead of Curly.
Well, that's an extremely good analogy. Yes, it's about an abusive, it's a dark anti-hero
Yes.
leading man, and in 1945, I'm amazed they got away with it at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And
one
there's
thing to
never
do it
really,
now.
I can't think of any musical that has any character like Billy Bigelow. Think about it.
Well, as you said, Judd but
Judd-
not as a
but
leading
Judd
man.
is not-
He's a villain.
is
right,
not-
right,
yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
No.
he's the yes. Villains we've had plenty of.
And they made him very sympathetic in recent versions of Oklahoma. You understand why. That's when they
Right.
sing "Poor Judd," they understand why. You know?
But here's what I'm surprised has not come up, is that Billy Bigelow in the Me Too era was a sexually abused employee.
It's interesting when you said that to me. I kind of was taken aback. And yes, you're right, but nobody would have thought that. Then
You're right.
And then wife abuse was okay.
But, well,
it was accepted.
Certainly not in a Broadway musical.
Well, but it was accepted in people's houses.
But think about it. This is the reason that he quit, that he doesn't go back to his job, and the reason that he can't make a living, and the reason that he goes on a botched robbery.
No. He doesn't
doesn't
go
want-
back because he's with her now, and she says, "You leave her. You can't come back unless you leave her."
Well, that's the thing, and he doesn't want to. But that's what do you think sexual harassment is?
But he was getting what he wanted out of that. I always thought that was a two-way
Not
street.
anymore,
Okay.
certainly.
Not the plot of the play, though. Let's go back to the plot of the play.
but an important part.
All right. Well,
on that.
again, your filters work both ways, don't they? They really do. Yes. Okay.
They do, don't they?
All right.
Well, you know, part of the play is he realizes his wife is pregnant, and he says, "Oh well, this is a girl. I've got to take care of her." So he joins a friend of his on a robbery. It's botched. He commits suicide.
Yeah.
And he basically, 15 years later, has to return to try and help his daughter.
Well, he didn't know. That's not what happens. The Starkeeper gives him a chance to do that. In this production, which is directed by Jack O'Brien and choreographed by now I'm going to lose it because I don't know.
Justin Peck.
Justin Peck, who is not a choreographer as much as he's a solo artist with the New York City Ballet. And so this is very balletic. I have to say, I missed the Agnes DeMille choreography. There wasn't even a nod to it.
Well,
this is all original.
In this particular instance, this is something else that you'll find different about this production, in that Julian and Billy's daughter is shunned by the town in the ballet. You see,
But she's always shunned.
but much less so
In this production. Yes.
Here, it's mostly her romantic misadventures, which they have to an extent in the DeMille choreography. But here, that's the key focus of it. And in fact, the character of Mr. Snow, who is married to Julie's best friend, he's normally portrayed as a snob. And here he's a
lovable schlubby kind of guy.
Well, not so much schlubby, but he's an entrepreneur. He starts off as a boat captain, a fishing boat captain, who builds a major business over the years.
Beautifully played by Alexander Gemignani, right?
Yes,
Just beautifully played by.
You know, and paired with Lindsay Mendez, who plays Carrie,
right.
and has the unenviable, I know that's a cliche task, of following Audra McDonald, who was so amazing in the role, but here she is, and she does it beautifully.
She goes for a much more comedic even than Audra McDonald did. She's Lucille Ball in this.
Okay.
And
I wouldn't have said Lucille Ball, but
okay, well that's who I got, maybe because she was a redhead.
You know,
I adored Renee Fleming in the role of Nettie Fowler. There's such a presence to this woman, and she's sexy, and she's a good actress.
Yeah.
And
look, you can tell she's an opera singer, although Jessie Muller as Julie also has a very operatic voice. I certainly never realized that.
There's YouTube footage of Jessie Muller playing Carrie in a concert version. I just found that today.
She's a good Carrie also, but she's also a very good Julie, and I loved when the two of them were singing together.
Yeah.
My problem with the play was Joshua Henry, who he's got the build.
He's got the voice.
He's got the voice, but he just, until he gets to the Stargazer, he's so out of sync with everybody else, and I just didn't feel any chemistry between him and
Without that chemistry, this play doesn't work, because that's got to be a coup de foudre, as the French say. They see each other and it's wham. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else
Well,
going to happen.
I didn't see the wham.
I didn't see it either. It happened on the Carousel, and the Carousel was so busy being choreography that I couldn't find them. You know, could you see them connecting? Well, okay, that's where it happened in this particular play. He's made to be an outsider, perhaps because he's black, perhaps not. In 1945, that couldn't have happened.
No.
But
well, in 1900, when this takes place, give or take,
it couldn't have happened.
This couldn't have happened, and I do think that is a little problematic, at least for me, because you keep thinking that.
Well,
at least I did.
Some people, and I did at moments myself. I have to be honest. But the other part of it is, I kept thinking, well, maybe it's staged to make him seem like an outsider, more so than Billy Bigelow, who is also an outsider.
Absolutely.
You know,
no, the character himself is an outsider. But at some point, he has to charm his way in, at least with Julie.
Because the one place where they are together is right after the clam bake. And we're just assuming you all know the story. We're not bothering to tell you the story. I can see that.
Okay, we have to wrap up.
Okay. Well,
so basically, and the show to me did not come into full force into the second act, where they had the ballet with the daughter, who was amazing.
Well, that's practically at the end, so you know.
It is, but you know, again, that's what really made the show for me.
I wanted to say a word about the Starkeeper role and what was done. He was made to seem as if he was making these things.
I think this is Brittany Pollock who. Pollock, excuse me.
But John Douglas Thompson, who was Satchmo and was also in Jitney, and you know.
Right. He's the Starkeeper.
He's the Starkeeper, but he's also a fabulous Shakespearean actor. I saw him play Tamerlane the Great in Washington. He's an amazing actor. And he doesn't get to do much here. He's kind of a presence, and he comes into a scene, but he doesn't have lines in the scene.
Well,
so
I think this is the first time I've ever actually seen him looking down. I don't recall him in previous productions.
This is what I'm saying, is that this production has him doing this, but it's not in the script. So he has no lines to do it with. The only lines he has are toward the end, and in the very beginning. Those are the only written lines.
Well, it may be, when Billy gets to him, it may be inspired by the movie which started out with Billy in heaven and having this as a flashback.
But having him weave his way in and out makes him a little bit like the angel in It's a Wonderful Life, trying to help. And that seems to be it. He's not successful, obviously, because Billy goes on and does his, you know, Billy is on an inevitable path to destruction.
Yes, but he does come back, and he does manage to help his daughter.
Except she comes out with that stupid line about, did you ever get a smack that felt like a kiss or whatever? This is where we really come into trouble these days. And somebody wrote, why would, I'm paraphrasing, but there was a tweet about, why would anybody put out a play about a wife abuser in this day and age? Look, talk about willful suspension of disbelief.
Well, no. Look, to not put out something like this is akin to saying it doesn't exist.
No, I think that I would have loved to see all of these people do a concert version. I would have loved that.
No. I think this is a show that should be staged and should be presented. But that said, I felt this production was lacking. I would give it 3 3/4.
In '93, it was an amazing production. I still had qualms about that, and it was an amazing production.
I actually think most of the elements in this production were better, because in '93, except for Audra McDonald, I was not impressed with the cast.
Elements is what you're talking about. There was a big. They had a thing going. There was a factory.
So you're
there was
talking
a carousel.
all right. So you're talking about the production.
Set. I hate it. I know they went back to the simplicity of 1945. Thank God we're in 2018. We don't need to go back to that simplicity, folks. Please don't do that anymore.
I was okay with that.
One projection. I would have lived for one projection. There was nothing. The boats didn't move until the scene changed, and then the boats moved, and then they stopped again. Oh no! I was very disappointed with the sets.
Okay.
I know why they did it. I know what the point was. So you gave it 3.5.
3 3/4, and I do feel that the acting again, you know, was better all in all. The singing and the acting, because whoever they had as Billy Bigelow in the last production, I forget his name, he didn't have the voice for it.
Okay, so I have to give a number.
You do.
3.75 sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
So where do we go from there?
Well, we very quickly, because we've only got 4 minutes left, go to the Seafarer.
Okay.
Is that the Irish rep?
Well, maybe we won't do the other two then. All right. So we just saw this, and again, this is a revival. It's by Conor McPherson, and it's directed by our friend Karen O'Reilly down at the IRT, the Irish Repertory Theatre. We just had Charlotte Moore on the show a few weeks ago. And this one stars Matthew Broderick making his return to the IRT. He did The Shining City, also by Conor McPherson there.
Right.
And this is a play about drunks and drinking. And anybody who watches the show knows my feeling about Irish plays that deal with drunks and drinking.
Right.
So we'll just shove that on the side and move on. It's a very dark, dense play about a bunch of losers on Christmas Eve who have nothing better to do than to drink.
And
They
play
wake
cards.
up and play. Well, the cards come later. It starts out with the one guy who's blind wakes up rolled up in a rug on the floor. His friend who's upstairs without his clothes on.
The bottom line is Broderick shows up.
But wait, no. Oh, you want to go that fast?
And he's the devil, and he's come to claim one of them if he can beat them in a card
Yeah, but he
game.
doesn't walk in and say, I'm the devil. He comes in
No,
and he's
he
introduced.
comes in,
and he
he's-
looks like a banker or an accountant.
Yeah.
And,
And they-
that
they-
was disturbing to me because when I saw Kieran Hines do it on Broadway, Kieran Hines was menacing.
Okay.
And this guy has no menace. So even when he says, I'm going to take your soul, it's sort of like, yeah, come and get it.
My
I
problem,
can fight you.
Well, no,
it
he's a little concerned. My problem with the show is I like the acting.
Yeah.
In it, good ensemble acting. My problem with the show is I didn't find the characters interesting enough, and most of this is character, very little plot.
Okay.
And
It's all dialogue. It's everything you need
Yes.
to know about everybody is in the dialogue, and you have to listen, and it's hard to listen to it with the accents, I know. But that's all it's about. They tell each other, who, oh, well, he was in jail, and he did this, and that's what happened to him, and whatnot. And that's how it goes.
and yeah, well, that's why it
And
didn't go for me.
The devil played this guy for his soul 25 years ago, and then the guy disappeared. And he only just now found him. He says he's been in every bar, in every place there was to be, to try to find him.
Well, that was, to me, was the interesting part, but that's only a relatively small part of the show, even if it's hovering over us for the entire, for the last part of the first act and for the entire second act.
So what are you saying? I'm not quite sure.
I'm saying I didn't find the dialogue interesting enough.
Okay, well, I did.
And I just felt there was too much of a lack of action, and that's why I'm only going to give this 2.5 playbills.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it 3.5. I really like the writing. I don't. The things I don't like, I've already talked about. But I really like the writing, and but I didn't care for Broderick in the part. I admire him
kinda
so.
liked him.
I admire him so for doing what he's doing. He's done a couple of off-Broadway shows. He's going up to Williamstown this summer. I really think that's wonderful. This role, I just wish he had stretched his comfort zone a little bit in this role to play it.
Okay, I was fine with his performance.
Okay.
All right, that is our show for the evening. And when you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us too.
On the aisle.